Sometimes as players, we forget just how amazing and intricate Magic the Gathering can be, and chances are with all the cards out there that there's cards you haven't thought about or looked at in years, maybe even decades. In today's video, we're going to discuss some of these cards because probably they're cards you just forgot about. Nothing surprises a Magic player more than when they see a card they've never seen before. Sometimes they don't even believe it's real. Welcome back, everyone. MTG Moxman here. Thanks again for hanging out with me on the channel today. Before we start today's video, we are only 212 subscribers away from reaching the goal of 20,000 subscribers. Thanks again to everyone who's helping make this happen. And if you enjoyed today's content, I hope you'll take the time to hit that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up, and of course, leave some comments in the comments section. It's always great to talk to new people who join in this channel for Magic the Gathering. So when I talk about older cards, they don't have to be reserve list, but the game is 30 plus years old, and the amount of cards that are old that new players have never seen can really blow people's minds. When you're thinking of Commander games and you think about the pace and the intricate combinations players can come up with, and you realize in some cases they can be stopped by one card, just one, and it can mess up everything somebody does. And when you build around that 1, 2, 3 type of cards out there that nobody's seen, it can be insane. You don't realize the damage you can do to a newer, well-constructed Commander deck or a new, well-constructed old-school deck until you see some of the amazing cards that players don't look at anymore. Now, some of these cards, of course, are reserve list, but they're pennies on the dollar nowadays. They've been at all-time highs, and now they're at all-time lows. Some of these cards are not reserve list, and they're not likely to get a reprint anytime soon, but that doesn't make them any less playable in Commander or other formats you want to try them out in. So let's take some time. Let's enjoy the amazing history of Magic the Gathering, and let's take a look at some amazing cards that, yeah, you probably forgot about. So the first card I want to talk to everyone about is going to be Smoke. Now here I'm showing you a 5th edition copy. It's less than $5. This card has not been reprinted in a long time if you don't count 30th anniversary. When you look back at an old school copy, something going back as far as Alpha, you can see a card like this had a really high price, okay? Now Smoke says each player can only untap one creature during his or her untap phase. The Alpha edition of this card is $600, but you get a revised copy for $3. This is a very affordable card. But imagine somebody with a token deck. Imagine somebody with a big, brutalizing deck. And then think of all the ways that you can get Smoke. You could use the Academy Rector here I just popped up on the screen. You could go take a look at an Idyllic Tutor. There are lots of options nowadays to go hunting for enchantments and bring them to bear on your opponent. And the fact that Smoke is only 2 red to cast means you can actually make use of this card even in a fast-paced Commander game. A card like that can be used and utilized right away. Some games are over so quickly, but this card has not outlived its usefulness in my opinion. Now, something like Academy Rector, yes, it's a $45 reserve list card. It's been a lot higher than that. And when you look at the Academy Rector being able to put it right into play, that is something players need to realize, that combination cards and different color combos that you can think of are just the tip of the iceberg, because it centers around cards that don't get used anymore. When you look at what people have out there, when you look at how people utilize these cards, they go for these fast kill combos. I've seen crazy combinations get played in Commander, board wiping things. But when you look at how easy it is to get your enchantments back, the amount of types of tutors we have, like Enlightened Tutor here, just being able to go out there and get the cards you need and make it happen right away, this is crazy stuff, guys, okay? You can Enlightened Tutor the turn before, put it on top there, boom, you go, you get it, and you draw it right away and play it, and you're already crippling your opponent's creatures if they're playing multiple creatures on the battlefield. You add this in with another old school card like Force Field and reduce their damage to 1, and that is a very long Commander game indeed. There's also all kinds of other combinations you can top up with this, but I mean, I'm not going to show everything today. I just want to talk about Smoke as a playable card that players can use. Now let's go ahead and take a look at another old school favorite. Hasn't been reprinted in a long time. If you don't catch things like, if you don't catch Kaladesh Inventions and stuff, you didn't look back that far. This is Meekstone. Now, Meekstone is, again, you're going back to Alpha, Beta, Unlimited. It's been reprinted multiple times, though. It's been around. We just haven't seen it anytime recently. Now, Meekstone is a 1 generic casting cost artifact. You see this thing that says any creature with power greater than 2 may not be untapped as normal during your untapped phase. Imagine you're just paralyzing creatures. And with how big we see creatures nowadays inside Commander, being able to play these cards and utilize them properly can be really hindered by something like a Meekstone, by something like a Force Field, by something like Smoke. When you're depending on multiple creatures to get the job done and they can't attack, they can't untap, adding things in to neutralize those creatures or finding ways to get rid of them can be a truly fun experience for the player who's utilizing these cards inside their deck and making the best use of a $5 and $6 card. Not all these cards have to be expensive to be fun to play with. They don't all have to be expensive to throw opponents into a bit of a puzzlement to see how things are played, because the old school games, guys, were a lot more about strategy, a lot more about trying to figure out, because every single card could be deadly. Where nowadays, Wizards gears it toward a speed-spaced game where you got to have all kinds of killer combinations, 4 or 5 card combos, 2 3 card combos. These things are one-ofs that do devastating things to opponents' decks. With a Meekstone, not letting things untap, you can literally just go ahead and have fun with it and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to tap that creature. And it's not going to untap because the Meekstone says that it can't untap. It's not going to do anything. Now, other cards you can utilize with it, think about Sleep. Tap all creatures target opponent controls. Those creatures don't untap during the next untap step. But if they're powerful creatures, if they're 4/4s, 3/3s, 5/5s with vigilance, whatever they may be, being able to tap those creatures and make sure they don't untap because Meekstone is out can be crazy fun. And like I said, having something like an Icy Manipulator there to tap an opponent's creature and use other cards in combination like a Royal Assassin to eliminate those creatures, to knock them out, and depending in a blue-black deck, playing with things like Vesuvian Doppelganger, Clone, Body Double, being able to copy the Royal Assassin to give yourself multiple ways of knocking out multiple creatures. When you combo this thing in, it can be so much fun. And I'm throwing this one up there fun. This is Spinal Villain. Don't forget, tap to destroy target blue creature. So Meekstone can affect all kinds of things, but you have other ways of getting tapped to destroy creatures out there. Don't forget that stuff. It doesn't just have to be a Royal Assassin. There are reserve list cards like Spinal Villain here. It's like a $20 card now. It's so inexpensive. It's so much fun. Now, for our next card, let's take a look at Wave of Terror. This is a Weatherlight card that went as high, I think it was like $17. Well, I'll pop up on the screen here. $17 for this card. And now you can see here that it started falling and falling and falling. And now, from the low of like 30 cents, you can get this card for like $1.50, because the Wave of Terror here says 1 black, 2 generic, cumulative upkeep, so you got to keep paying for it. But at the end of your upkeep, bury each creature with casting cost equal to Wave of Terror's last paid cumulative upkeep. So you get rid of all the 1 casting cost, and you get rid of all the 2s. Anything that doesn't survive and you get, it lives, you can go ahead and use a card like Pestilence to start picking opponents' creatures off. Not to mention using something like Skull of Orm to go back and get the Wave of Terror. You don't have to keep paying the cumulative upkeep. You can keep it at 0, keep it at 1, whatever you want, because as you go ahead and recast it and find ways of bringing recursion to your deck, things like Pestilence, things like Wave of Terror can all be used in combination with other cards, other board wipes, other ways of dealing with it. When you start looking at something like Damnation, where it says destroy all creatures, they can't be regenerated, you got Waves of Terrors, you got Doomsday, you got all these cards that are going to mess people up, okay? You have so many ways of adding these things into your Commander deck, and it's pennies on the dollar. It doesn't have to cost $10, $15 for an old school reserve list card that actually can do a lot, because it can selectively start picking apart creatures. You could have bigger creatures that are going to escape the first 2, 3, 4 rounds you have this Wave of Terror out, but your opponent's creatures are being picked apart. Remember, utilizing cards like this and building decks in combination, in concert with what you plan to do is what it's all about. And a card like Wave of Terror being this cheap to get out, use, and only takes 1 black, don't forget, it's 1 black, 2 generic. Look at Shadow's Verdict, right? Nice little thing, but it costs 5. And Wave of Terror does the exact same thing in a couple of turns for pennies on the dollar at almost half the casting cost. That's the difference between a reserve list card, old school, gonna solve your problems, versus something new that Wizards has re-engineered to make it look cool and be cool, but it's not as good as something like I consider Wave of Terror, assuming you can get it out early enough to really start affecting your opponent. Now, the next card's not as cheap. This is Sanctum. Now, it has definitely fallen off of its highs. No, it's not a $100 card, but it was at $450. The low back in 2012 was $16.95. But nowadays, you can get this card for probably around $300 Canadian, $250 US. But when you look at the cards, like Yenna here, and you look at the fact that, yes, Sanctum says, tap to add to your mana pool for each enchantment you control. But with the cards they're giving us, like Wilds of Eldraine's Yenna, where it says it's a 4/4 for 4, which is already kind of disgusting by old school standards. It's 2 and tap. Choose target enchantment you control that doesn't have the same name as another permanent you control. Create a token that is a copy of it, except it isn't legendary. This is kind of wow, right? The idea you could start copying enchantments and allow Sanctum to tap for more and more mana. To be able to tap and utilize that mana to do all kinds of crazy things in concert. See, Sanctum, I do have it in my Angels deck for my Commander deck, but using it in a white-red deck or using it in a way with mana flares and stuff to really build up your mana supply to some sick, disgusting amount, you can just nuke all your opponents in some big Blaze of Glory type style thing, a little Banefire action. There's just so many possibilities that Sanctum couldn't utilize 10 years ago, 15 years ago. That's why it was such a cheap reserve list card. Because there wasn't enough enchantments the players wanted to play that made it worthwhile. Now there is. And that's why, unlike other cards I've showed you today, this one hasn't fallen as far down the list as other cards have. Always have to keep that in mind. Now here's the last card I want to share with you guys before we end off the video. This is Winter's Chill from Ice Age. Now, this card is often forgotten because it is a blue board wipe spell. It wipes out opponents' attacking creatures. It does require snow-covered lands to really make it work. But it says, cast only during combat before defense is chosen. At the end of combat, destroy X attacking creatures. X cannot be greater than the number of snow-covered lands you control. For each attacking creature, its controller may pay 1 or 2 to prevent that creature from being destroyed. Now, if 1 is paid, the creature neither deals nor receives combat damage. If 2 is paid, then of course it deals regular damage. But things like the mana short, things like tectonic instability, where you can actually mess people up, it's kind of insane. And I think cards like this are just underutilized, okay? In Mana Short's case, you imagine you want to attack somebody. And it's, okay, I'm going to, as soon as their upkeep and untap is done, you tap all their mana. They do whatever they're going to do. They end up going to attack because they think they've got you. But all you've really done is drain their mana pool, tapped all their stuff out, and now you get to mess with them. Because when you do Winter's Chill, and you got 10, 12, 8, whatever you've got, and you can wipe out, key creatures there, that's kind of insane. And they have no way of stopping it because you tap them out and they didn't expect it. Nobody expects a board wipe to come from something like Winter's Chill. Things like the Tectonic, guys, every time a land comes in, tap all their lands. Fun stuff, man. And there's ways of getting lands out on other people's turns. Don't forget that stuff. Cards like these are just so underutilized that in many cases, the new cards being printed by Wizards of the Coast are superior to most of the old school reserve list, older style cards. But there are those old style cards that are truly powerful pieces of Magic history. And the reason Wizards of the Coast doesn't reprint these cards like smoke, this is the reason it hasn't come around again. Because it messes up the gameplay to such a degree that what Wizards of the Coast is trying to do stops. And the game takes a different tone. The same with cards like Winter's Chill. Blue is not known for board wipes. There was a time where Wizards of the Coast had cards that wiped out lands, that wiped out everybody's lands, that wiped out singular color types of lands, that could counter spells like Death Grip and Life Grip. There were so many different choices available to players. But nowadays in the fast-paced world of Magic, where you're trying to get token armies going, great combinations with vampires and werewolves, some players forget these things exist. They forget how messed up they can be if a player decides to build with these and take control of whatever game they're playing. And there's not much players can do to stop them nowadays, because for all the solutions Wizards has put into the game, for all the ways of getting rid of planeswalkers or even enchantments, there's an equal amount to bring them back nowadays, and that's the real difference. Back in the day, there was no way of bringing this stuff back, so after you got rid of it, it's gone. Get rid of the Meek Stone, good, you don't have to deal with it again. But nowadays, I can just bring it back. I can find a way. Even when it's exiled, there are cards that let you bring these things back from exile nowadays. And this is where the cards can truly shine. This is where they can keep coming back. And players who even do maybe have that solution can't permanently solve the problem. It can be a blast to try out. And the cards are so underappreciated and undervalued right now, then why not grab a couple? Why not grab a playset of this or a playset of that? You should take a look at some cards, look at some of the combinations you would love to try in the game, and why not try to build it? It's a great game. It's fun to engineer decks that nobody expects. No, they don't all have to be EDH, you got to win in 2-3 turns. No, they don't have to be a 40 card, 60 card. It's whatever format you're playing with your friends, whatever style you guys are playing, a lot of these cards are going to find a home and find a way to have a good time if you want them to. Thanks a lot for hanging out, guys. Thanks for chilling with me on the channel today. Guys, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for another video. I hope you had a fantastic time like I did today, and I'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget, bring a friend to Magic. It's no fun playing alone. Always have some company. I'll see you guys soon. And here at the end of the video, I'd like to show my appreciation by saying thanks again to the amazing patrons, YouTube membership members, the patrons who make this happen every day with their continued support. Thanks again for being there, guys. You rock. I'll see you tomorrow. Welcome back to the end. Yeah, I got coffee. I've also been cleaning my dog's ear. I'm telling you guys, you know, dog gets an ear infection or if he's like, you know, got all gunked up, you got to clean that stuff out and keep it nice and squeaky clean. And the dog doesn't like it. He's like, but it's okay. Enough talking about the dog. BC's fine. Don't worry. He's chilling. He got a cookie treat afterwards. He was all bells and whistles. I think it's funny because I tried a couple of these cards, by the way. I've used Winter's Chill before, and no one has ever expected it. You ever used an Acid Rain on a green deck? Have you ever done that? I know it's cruel. I know it's heartless. But have you ever done it? It's a $70 card right now. We're here at the end of the video. Nobody's here but us. This is the Ramble Jamble. You're the only ones here. I'm telling you, Academy Rector for 40 bucks. Are you kidding me? Get any enchantment you want. Are you kidding me? Okay. Used to be a couple $100, but hey, it's 40 bucks right now. How about you take a look at cards from a different perspective? Are you going to play with them? Are you going to enjoy them? Would I rather get a Shieldred? And yes, I always use Shieldred because it's a really expensive card right now. When I could get an Academy Rector, kill my Rector. Let me go get the exact enchantment I need to mess you up. You have 10 creatures out. Let me put a smoke out there. Let me put the Meek Stone. Winter's Chill. You attack me, but I've tapped out your mana, or you've tapped it out voluntarily, not knowing. And you go, this guy's done it. I say, I'm going to destroy 10 of your attacking creatures. And they're like, what? With what? Huh? With this $1 reserve list card. Do you want to read it? And they're like, blue has a board wipe? Yeah. If Thomas, if you're watching right now, that was your face and you know it. When you turn that card over and read all that text, you're just like, blue has a board wipe spell? It was awesome. Classic. I almost wanted to take a photo. I even joked with him. Can I take a picture of that? And he's like, get out of here. This stuff happens, guys. And those old school cards that everyone forgets about, singular domination of the game by one card. That's all it takes nowadays. None of these killer combinations, they're great when you get them. But nothing says love than when somebody attacks you with a 15-15, whatever it may be, and you've got a force field, you've got a Meek Stone, you got a Royal Assassin, you got an Icy Manipulator, you just tap the creature and kill it. Nothing says love like that. From the heart to you. I know I'm evil, it's okay. This isn't like, anything bad. It's just, this is the way the game is played. Thanks a lot, guys. Hope you're having a great day. Hope you had fun today. I know I did. I had a blast putting this together. We haven't done a video like this for a while, and the price is changing so much, it's epic. I'll see you guys soon. Have an awesome day. Thanks for stopping by, man.